హాయ్ హలో వెల్కమ్ టు ఎన్ఎన్ మీడియా. మన భారతదేశంలో ప్రస్తుతం మనం చూసుకున్నట్టయితే ఎన్నో రకాలైనటువంటి సంఘర్షణలు జరుగుతూ ఉన్నాయి దేశవ్యాప్తంగా. పలు ప్రాంతాల్లో ప్రజలందరూ కూడా రోడ్ల మీదకి వచ్చి న్యాయం కోసం, హక్కుల కోసం పోరాటం చేస్తున్నటువంటి పరిస్థితులు ఉన్నాయి. దేశాన్ని మొత్తం మీద మనం గమనించినట్టయితే ఎక్కడా కూడా శాంతియుతంగా పాలన నడుస్తుంది అనడానికి సంకేతాలు లేవు. మరి ఈ నేపథ్యంలో కొంతమంది వాళ్ళంతట వాళ్ళు స్వచ్ఛందంగా అసలు దేశంలో శాంతిని స్థాపించాలంటే ఏం చేయొచ్చు, ఇక్కడ నడుస్తున్నటువంటి మిలిటరీకరణ కానీ కార్పొరేటీకరణకు కానీ వ్యతిరేకంగా పోరాడుతూ ప్రజల తరఫున నిలబడుతున్నటువంటి వాళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. సో ఈరోజు ఢిల్లీ నుంచి అట్లా ఒక టీం మన దగ్గరకు వచ్చింది, వాళ్ళతో మాట్లాడి తెలుసుకుందాం. హలో అండి.
Hello. So, thanks for having us. My name is Ehtmam and this is Badel. We are members of Forum Against Corporatization and Militarization. It is a joint platform that was formed in 2022 with 12 or 15 democratic progressive organizations and over a dozen of intellectuals. And we have been since then working to build a solidarity network with and for the people's movement that is going against corporate loot and militarization.
Currently, wherever the corporatization is higher in practice, there what are you fighting for?
So basically, when you look at central India or eastern India, which is mostly like majorly inhabited by Adivasi people belonging to different tribes, whether be it Gond or Madia Gond or Santhal or Khon tribes or Koya tribe, or there are multiple other particularly vulnerable tribal groups. These regions are also rich in mineral resources. If we talk about Bastar particularly, there are 40 types of mineral resources. And since 1980s, in context of Bastar, since 1980s, there have been geo mapping of these regions and mining MOUs have been signed. And with the MOUs come big corporations, foreign corporations as well as domestic corporations to extract those resources that is beneath the Adivasi land. So to extract those resources, you have to displace the people, you have to destroy whatever existing model of development that they have, whether be it agriculture, fishiculture or whatever that they are using to sustain themselves, that will be destroyed. And to protect that particular, their immediate source of existence as well as the larger question of resource of the country itself, and country as well as environment, they are struggling to protect Jal Jangal Jameen. And it has been happening historically, whether be it during British colonial regime itself. Bastar has seen Bhumkal rebellion in 1910. So in Bastar, since 2005 particularly, there have been successive military operations, Salvajadum, then Operation Green Hunt, then Operation Samadhan Prahar, and then now Operation Kagar. And these all operations have been aimed to do one thing only, and that is to displace the Adivasi people and extract those resources. And our aim is to stand with the people shoulder to shoulder wherever they are fighting against corporate loot and militarization.
In your observation, how is the militarization has been misusing by the state?
Historically, resource has never been looted without the military might of a particular force or a particular state. Whenever resources have been looted, whenever people's labor has been exploited, wherever there has been other form of operations, it has been through laws of the existing state, and the laws have been enforced through military might. So it is not a question of whether it has been misused or not. It is just that in this given context, it is the very nature of those armed forces and the very purpose of deployment of armed forces in thousands of numbers in these regions is to exploit resources. It is not to protect those people. If you'll go to Bastar, people of Bastar will say that we don't have issue of crime. Okay? You won't find rape cases like you find in metropolitan centers. Like on an average in India, every 8 minutes a woman gets raped. But that is not something that you will find normally in Adivasi areas, except that are being done by the very security forces that have been deployed to so-called protect these people. So it's not a question of misusing. These forces have been deployed with the interest to loot these resources, and in that endeavor they have been given impunity to use whatever means they can use to push the Adivasi people off their land. And those methods can be rape as a political tool, or extrajudicial killing, or beating and torture and illegal detention on a routine basis. This all, like all of these are being done in a very systematic manner to create a fear psychosis among the people, that either you leave this land or you accept the decisions taken by state corporate nexus, or you will be decimated. Okay. So that is the very nature of this deployment and militarization in the region.
If the state continues doing this, and what could be the consequences of all these things?
So basically, it's an interesting question, and like history tells a lot about it. When in 2005, Salojadum was launched, basically it was a vigilante militia formed of like lumpen elements and like landlord type sections within the Adivasi community and around, and they were armed by the state, and they were given impunity to go around, rape, kill, and massacre people, burn houses and villages, entire villages. When this started happening, the expected outcome was that the people will abandon their struggle and will succumb to it, will surrender to in the face of repression. But what ended up happening, because the aim was to like to create a fear psychosis in general and get the people to be silent and leave their land, and the other thing was to cut the people from the Maoists. But what it ended up doing was that whenever these actions were taken by Salahuddin, often it was the case that the Maoists came in rescue of the people, and that pushed the people more to the toward the side of the Maoists, and Maoists number grew in that period. Okay. In this particular context also, I'll give you one example. I had visited Abujmar last year with certain reporters, and while interviewing the people who have been peacefully struggling under various mass movements under the banner of Mulwasi Bachao Manch, and in south in North Bastar, Abujmar area, under various other organizations, they say, all of them unanimously said one thing, that we have been trying the peaceful method for 3 years, and we are not getting any response, any results from the state. On the contrary, what we are getting is intense militarization and repression. And if this continues, we will choose the violent mode of resistance. Okay. So what I have understood is ki if there are contradictions that push the people to resist, if those contradictions, and as long as those contradictions exist within the society, and if there is a conscious force and conscious people present there, then it will always take the shape of resistance. The mode of resistance depends on the people that are resisting at that particular point. That for me to say won't be right now, but like people choose the means of resistance due to the conditions that are being set up by the state. Okay. Often it has been the case that movements have been peaceful and the state has unleashed violence, and then counter to that violence has happened counter violence of the people. Okay. So this situation also, the intensification of war during Kagar and killing of more than 400 people, in which uh, according to the people, and which is has also been said by the Maoists, that one third of them were Adivasi, ordinary Adivasi villagers, and one third of them were unarmed Maoists. Okay. So this kind of situation will only create more hostilities and will only sharpen the contradictions that already exist. And with the sharpening of contradictions, resistance will take shape and will build up. It might be possible that at this particular juncture it might suffer setbacks, okay, but in the longer run this crisis will culminate into something.
Since you were in touch with the natives of Dandakaranya, what could be the demands of the people to the state?
So the primary question here is, which has been historically there since the Bhumkal rebellion and the Santhal rebellion I was earlier referring to, has been the right of Adivasis over their Jal Jangal Zameen. So that remains the central to everything, central demand of everything. So Adivasis want to retain their right over their Jal Jangal Zameen where they have lived for like centuries, and they want to develop. It's not like they want to remain in that setup only where they are only gathering for forest produce or something, but they want to develop according to their needs and their demands, their needs. It's not like they want development, but what kind of development will be there, that has to be decided by the people. It should not be superimposed. Okay, the society has had like developed at different stages, and wherever development has come, it has been based on the needs of the people, what the people have wanted of that particular region. So let's say if the people of the region will want like mining and will want to engage in mining, it's the people of that region, in the interest of the region and the country, will do mining. Okay, but in the present scenario it's not being done in the interest of the country or the people for that matter of that region. It is being done by the foreign corporations. Let's say for example a foreign corporation is coming, and either it is coming directly or it is coming indirectly through a domestic corporate house, and it is investing $1 billion rupees. It is investing $1 billion rupees, and it is getting mining lease for like thousands of like millions of tons of bauxite or iron ore, and it is getting those iron ore per ton at a very cheap cost, which they are plundering from our soil, using our cheap labor, which they are paying very less to our labor, and then they are again processing and producing goods using our cheap labor, and then selling it to us only at 10 or 20 times the cost. So it is our labor, our resources, and then our market, but the money is going outside. So this is not being done in the interest of Indian people. It is being done, it's not just about Bastar. Okay, it is not being done in the interest of the Adivasi people, and largely also it is not being done in the interest of the national economy itself. So the people will decide what kind of development model they will have. So this is the central demand. Within that demand is uh, implementation of Pesa Kanun. Pesa Kanun basically to a certain extent grants this right only, that Adivasis have the right to decide what will be done of their land. Even if the government wants to take up some developmental project, they will have to consult the Adivasis of the region whether they want it or not. So Pesa Kanun ka implementation is one thing which is being very rampantly violated in all of the Adivasi regions, whether be it in Gadchiroli of Maharashtra, whether it be Kalahandi or Rayagad district of Odisha, or entire Bastar, or in Jharkhand, or in any other regions where Adivasis are inhabiting lands that are rich in mineral resources. So Pesa Kanun implementation is one demand. Then other demand is stopping of militarization of these regions through paramilitary camps. Then there is demand to not build wide roads, big wide roads, because historically wide roads and railway networks have not been built in this region to for the comfort of the people or for the benefit of the people. It has been built so that convoys of military can go in and forcefully extract the mineral resources, and then dumpers of like big mining corporations can take out the mineral resources of these regions. People where a region where people don't barely have bikes, motorcycles, two-wheeler motorcycles, or at max a tractor or trolley, why do they need like 60 feet wide road? It is not, that itself says that it is not for the interest of the people. So second demand is not to, like third second demand is not to build wide roads, and then stopping of building of camps, And then recently, with militarization obviously comes other things such as extrajudicial killings, rapes, and torture, illegal detention, ordinary beating up of Adivasi men and women. So that has to stop. That has been the central demand. And in the recent past, there have been, in 3 years, there have been 5 aerial bombings. So demand to stop such kind of aerial bombings through drones has also been the one of the central calls that has been raised by mass movements happening in the region.
Okay. Since you have told all these things, it is quite openly saying that the human rights violation has been taking place in Dandakaranya. Also, the exploitation of our labor resources and all. So why can't the government is stopping the foreign companies and corporates?
It is because like these, the very government or the very structure itself is being subordinate to these corporations. There is a nexus, and more than a nexus, there is a subjugation towards it. Okay. For example, you have the case of electoral bonds. If you will see, like BJP has received thousands of crores of rupees through electoral bonds, and within that electoral bonds you will find big mining corporations funding BJP and other political parties also, where like their interests are tied. So there it is a like give and take relationship also, and there is some sort of subjugation also, where you don't have the political will to go against these foreign corporations, these imperialist powers that are there, because India is like its its whole structure is built and is being supported and is being maintained by that kind of relation. And India has that debt thing also. India has $658 billion debts, that is like 20 lakh crore rupees. So that kind of debt is quite something to like be worried about, and that's what stop the Indian state to take any kind of independent action and any kind of independent stance, whether it be in their domestic matters or whether it be in international matters as well. India does not go against certain like imperialist powers like US when geopolitical questions are concerned. Like for example, when Palestine ceasefire voting in UN happened regarding Palestine, India could not go against US, so it refrained from voting. So that is the kind of domination, like that is the kind of clutch that India has. And it's not just like that they are naive or innocent. The Indian ruling class benefits from that kind of relation, so it wants to retain that kind of relation.
Okay, what could be the impact of this militarization and corporatization in the Indian politics?
Like we are seeing that there is a rise of Hindutva fascism all across the country, and this rise of Hindutva fascism has been intensifying, if you see, since there has been neoliberal policies introduced in the country. When in 1991 LPG reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization, which we also call new liberal reforms, were brought, simultaneously multiple MOUs and lots of trade agreements were signed. And that kind of MOUs and trade agreements and uh, that kind of situation that increases the plunder of resources demands that the people are divided, so that they do not unite and resist against the conditions that they are being forced into. So in 1991 LPG reforms came, and in 1992 you have the Babri Masjid demolition, and from there onwards there has been a great rupture on the question of secularism, People have been divided. From there onward, there started a reaction of division of the Indian society and otherization of a particular community, to make them, to project them as villains, so that the oppressed and exploited people itself, the normal working class Hindu people, have somebody to fight. Otherwise, if they don't have an imaginary enemy, they will go and fight the actual enemy. So that this is exactly the same thing that happened in Germany also. Jews and homosexuals were projected as enemies of Germany, and they were blamed for its stagnation and its losses in the past, uh, so as to create them as some villain, project them as some villains, so that the other section of the society can keep fighting with them, can keep harassing them, and be caught up in that cycle, and lose sight of the real enemy, which is in Indian context at the present time the foreign corporations and the domestic corporations and their stooges, feudal stooges on ground, that are these contractors that are facilitating the plunder of resources in the country. So this is the kind of repercussion with the intensification of foreign backed corporate loot. There is bound to be intensification of fascist onslaught and degradation of civil rights and democratic rights of people all across the country. I'll just say one thing: if shooting ordinary protesters in Bastar, in Kashmir, becomes normalized, then that will have its reflections on democratic mass movements in metropolitan cities like Hyderabad and Delhi also. And we have seen that drones were used to drop bombs in Bastar, and then we have recently seen that in 2024, 2023, 2024, when Kisans were trying to march to Delhi, they were tear gas and stun grenade shells were dropped using drones. Okay. So similar kind of technology is being used to suppress a movement of the people thousand more than 1500 kilometers away from where the actual war is going. So the intensification of war and the brutality that is being generalized will have its reflections elsewhere also. Okay, people are being jailed in the name of urban naxals. Whoever is speaking against the government and its anti-people policy is being tagged as urban naxal. So this is basically the implication of normalization of the war in Bastar.
Yeah. Uh, with the vast understanding on the current issues, could you please tell us how can we, I mean, what can be the weapon in order to curb all these issues?
I think that the most important thing at the moment is to forge solidarity among all the oppressed and exploited section of the society. For example, Adivasi peasants are fighting to protect their Jal Jangal Zameen and the natural resources and environment of the country. Simultaneously, the peasants, the farmers of the country are fighting against these very big corporations to protect their land. Otherwise, Adani and all these industries will go into agriculture business also, agro business also, agro industry also. That has been the case in Kashmir. Adani has intervened in the apple orchards. Okay. So there is a similarity. There is a similarity between these two struggles. There is a natural cause of unity between these two struggles, and likewise the oppressed section of the society, the oppressed minorities like Muslim minorities or Sikh minorities, or oppressed castes like Dalit people, they are also being exploited and oppressed by this very system itself, by this very state itself. So, and the working class also, like the bringing of four labor codes to take away whatever rights they had, the rights that have been achieved by historical international working class struggle, is being eroded. So all of these forces are being exploited and oppressed, and the common thread is the same. It is this very state and its structure that is creating and that is unleashing this kind of war. war might not be always guns and bullets. It's a war on the daily lives of the people that is being unleashed. And if the people have, if the people, which is 90% of the people, are being exploited and oppressed, and their enemy is common, it's very natural to have common unity. Okay. So I think a broader anti-fascist unity, anti foreign corporation, anti imperialist, anti fascist unity needs to be formed, and all of these struggles which are happening in their different pockets need to come together, extend solidarity, stand shoulder in shoulder, shoulder and shoulder with each other, and identify a common plan of action through which they can resist this kind of onslaught. So that is like the need of the hour.
థ్యాంక్ యూ సార్.
Thanks for having me.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. సో వీళ్ళలాంటి ఎంతో మంది మానవ హక్కుల కార్యకర్తలు మాట్లాడుతున్నటువంటి విషయాల్ని మనం గమనించినట్టయితే దేశం ఇప్పుడు ఎంత సంక్షుభితమైన పరిస్థితుల్లో ఉందో మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. వీళ్ళన్న మాటల్ని బట్టి ఒక మాట మీకు చెప్తాను, మన దేశ పరిస్థితిని అర్థం చేసుకోవాలంటే. యుద్ధం అంటే కేవలం బుల్లెట్లు ఇంకా వెపన్లతోనే అవ్వదు, మన రోజువారీ జీవితంలో కూడా అస్థిరతను తీసుకొస్తే అది కూడా యుద్ధమే అని చెప్పేసి వీళ్ళు చెప్తా ఉన్నారు. ఈరోజు మనం చూసుకున్నట్టయితే మన జీవితాలు ఈరోజు మనం ఏదైతే గడుపుతున్నామో మన జీవితాల్లో మనం చేస్తున్నటువంటి శ్రమ మొత్తం కూడా ఏదో దేశంలో ఉన్నటువంటి కార్పొరేట్ల కోసమే మనం ఇక్కడ దినం రాత్రి తెలియకుండా పనిచేయాల్సి వస్తుంది. మన భూమి, మన వనరులు, మన లేబర్ అంటే శ్రామిక వర్గం కూడా మన నుంచే వచ్చి, సో మనం అంతా ఉత్పత్తి చేస్తే ఆ ఉత్పత్తిని వాళ్ళు 1000 రెట్లు ఎక్కువగా, 10 రెట్లు ఎక్కువగా ఇట్లా మళ్ళీ మనకి కట్టబెట్టడం, దాంతో ఇక్కడ ఒక రకమైనటువంటి ఎక్స్‌ప్లాయిటేషన్ జరుగుతూ ఉంది. ఇట్లా రోజుకి ఎన్నో రకాలైనటువంటి ఎక్స్‌ప్లాయిటేషన్స్, ఈ ఏదైతే ఈ కార్పొరేటైజేషన్ ఉందో, ఈ కార్పొరేటీకరణకు అనుకూలంగా ఉండడం కోసం అడవుల్లో ఉన్నటువంటి ఆదివాసీలను వేరే చోట్లకి పంపడానికి, తరిమివేయటానికి, వాళ్ళు మాట వినకపోతే, ధిక్కరిస్తే, ప్రతిఘటిస్తే వాళ్ళని చంపేయడానికి ఈరోజు రాజ్యము అంటే ఇటు రాష్ట్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు కానివ్వండి, కేంద్ర ప్రభుత్వాలు కానివ్వండి, ఎట్లా ప్రజలని వాళ్ళ హక్కుల్ని ఉల్లంఘించి మరి కార్పొరేట్లకు దేశాన్ని, దేశ సంపదను కట్టబెట్టడానికి వాళ్ళంతా కలిసికట్టుగా పనిచేస్తూ ఉన్నారు అనే దానికి వీళ్ళందరి మాటలు కూడా ఒక నిదర్శనంగా మనం చూసుకోవచ్చు. అయితే ఈ జరుగుతున్నటువంటి ఇంత భారీ విధ్వంసానికి సొల్యూషన్ ఏదై ఉండొచ్చు అంటే వాళ్ళు చెప్తున్నటువంటి విషయం ఏంటంటే, మన భారతదేశంలో మెజారిటీ ప్రజలైనటువంటి హిందువులకి లేనటువంటి ఒక విలన్ని అంటే ఊహాజనితమైనటువంటి ఒక విలన్ని పరిచయం చేస్తే, ప్రతినాయకుడిని పరిచయం చేస్తే అప్పుడు వాళ్ళు కొట్టుకుంటారు. మనం అసలైనటువంటి విలన్ ఎవరైతే ఉన్నారో, అసలైన శత్రువు నుంచి వాళ్ళని డైవర్ట్ చేసినట్టయితే మనం ఈజీగా మన పనులు చేసుకోవచ్చు అని. సో ఈ మాటలలో మీకు సింపుల్గా చెప్పాలంటే ఇక్కడ ఊహాత్మకమైనటువంటి శత్రువు ఎవరు ఈ భారతదేశంలో ప్రస్తుతం అంటే మతాన్ని అడ్డుపెట్టి, సో ఈ మతం వాళ్ళు మీ మతానికి హాని చేస్తూ ఉన్నారు, ఈ మతం వాళ్ళ వల్ల మీ మతము నష్టపోవచ్చు, మీ మతం ప్రమాదంలో ఉంది అని చెప్పేసి మతం తాలూకు లేదా కులం తాలూకు ఇట్లాంటి బూచీల్ని చూపించి అసలైన సమస్యల్ని పక్కదారి పట్టించి ఆ సమస్యల మీద మనం మాట్లాడకుండా మనని నిద్రబుచ్చి ఆ సమస్య నుంచి పక్కకి జరిపి అక్కడ వాళ్ళు చేయాల్సినటువంటి విధ్వంసకర చర్యలన్నీ కూడా చేస్తూ ఉన్నారు. ఇది ప్రస్తుతం మన భారతదేశంలో మరీ ముఖ్యంగా డెమోక్రాటిక్ దేశంలో నడుస్తున్నటువంటి రాక్షస పాలన అని చెప్పేసి వీళ్ళందరి మాటల ద్వారా మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు. కాబట్టి ఇవన్నీ పక్కన పెడితే మనలో మన మాటగా ఏం అర్థం చేసుకోవచ్చు అంటే, నిరంతరం దేశంలో ఏం జరుగుతూ ఉంది అది రాజకీయ పరంగా కానీ సామాజిక పరంగా కానీ వాటన్నింటినీ గమనిస్తూ తెలుసుకుంటూ ఈ కులాలు మతాలు అనేటటువంటి కుట్రల్లో మనం కూడా పావులుగా బలవకుండా దేశవ్యాప్తంగా ఎట్లా ఆర్థిక పరమైనటువంటి సంస్కరణలు ఎట్లా వస్తున్నాయి, సామాజికంగా ఎట్లాంటి మార్పులు వస్తున్నాయి, ఎక్కడైనా ఏదైనా అణచివేత జరిగితే దానికి మూల కారణం ఏమై ఉండొచ్చు, లాంటివన్నీ కూడా మనం నిశితంగా పరిశీలిస్తూ ముందుకెళ్తున్నట్టు. అయితే అలాగే వీళ్ళు మా మతం కాదు, వీళ్ళు ఇంకెవరో, వీళ్ళు మన వాళ్ళు కాదు అని చెప్పేసి కమ్యూనిటీ బేస్డ్గా మనం అందరం కూడా డివైడ్ అవ్వకుండా అందరం కలిసికట్టుగా రాజ్యాన్ని ధిక్కరించినట్టయితే ఖచ్చితంగా రాజ్యం ఈరోజు కార్పొరేట్లకి దేశాన్ని కట్టబెట్టకుండా ఏదైతే రాజ్యాంగబద్ధమైన పాలన ఉంటుందో అది కొనసాగించే అవకాశం మాత్రమే ఉంది.